So with the new Halo flight controller out with Gemini Diversity Express LRS, the next question is, well, what's the best way to connect to it? The short answer is whatever you already have. It's going to work well with it because it has two antennas to receive. But if you want the absolute best performance, let's take a look at what those options are. I've got here the Radiomaster Nomad and the Betafpv SuperG transmitters that both support Gemini, but they support it in different ways because they have different chipsets. And because of that, the way that you connect and the modes that you have available to you is complicated. So I'm going to go through a table of options and then we'll take a look at what the best option is. No matter if you have a fancy Gemini receiver, a Nomad, or a SuperG, it doesn't matter, or even a built-in one, these are the settings I recommend. They're going to work perfectly fine. And that's going to be 500 Hertz LoRa right here, setting to race mode, which turns off telemetry when you arm, using hybrid switch mode so that just your main sticks are getting the full resolution, setting it to Gemini mode if you have Gemini mode. There's some people I've seen that say you should turn off Gemini mode if you're not connected to a Gemini receiver. I don't think that's important, especially if you're running in race mode where it turns off telemetry when you're armed. I think run it in Gemini mode all the time. Just do that. Link mode normal, model match off, TX power 50 milliwatt fixed. Do not come to a race. Do not fly with other people with your transmitter set high. It's going to make it difficult to receive signal, and it makes it hard for everyone. You want the lowest power you can. That's why we run 25 milliwatt on our video. Don't run high power. Also on HDZero goggles, they can get affected by high power transmitters, let's say over 250 milliwatt. It'll actually reduce your video reception. So just don't set your power higher than what is necessary. 50 milliwatt fix is going to be really good. I use VTX admin. You should too. And yeah, that's about it. These are your settings. 500 Hertz LoRa. On the Nomad, this is going to show up as 500 2.4 gigahertz mode because it has 900 also. But all the other settings will look the same. Alright, so this is where it gets fun. I had to actually make a spreadsheet to just kind of figure this out in my head, figure out how all this stuff worked. So the whole problem comes down to the different chipsets that are used between the different Gemini systems. The older versions that we've been using for years and years, that's probably built into your radio, is an SX1280 or an SX128X. That's a certain chip from Semtech, and that's the one that we've been using all this time. There's a new chip called the LR1121 that can do 900 megahertz and 2.4 gigahertz at the same time. So newer designs are using this one more and more, and that is not what's put into the Halo flight controller. This has the SX1280 just due to space reasons. Trying to fit the LR1121 on there, I guess, wasn't possible. So we're stuck with this for better or worse. The good news is if you're an absolute performance junkie, at least for today in the current version of Express LRS, the SX1280 supports a 1000 Hertz mode, and currently the LR1121 doesn't have a officially released 1000 Hertz 2.4 gigahertz mode. So technically speaking, if you wanted the absolute best performance out of the Halo RX, you would need to use something like the Betafpv SuperG TX that is based on the SX1280 and has the F1000 FLRC. But, I mean, putting that aside, you can see the table here. The 500 Hertz LoRa is supported across the board between all of these. It's one of the reasons I recommend it. 500 Hertz LoRa is also supported on SPI receivers like for the AIO5. So I just like to leave my transmitter in 500 hertz LoRa mode, and then everything just works great. Some people recommend the D500 mode. That's only going to work on this SX1280 chip. There's an equivalent DK500 for the new LR1121, but again, that doesn't work. And then, neither of these work with a SPI receiver. The thing that works the best across the board and has the best reception in the noise floor is going to be a LoRa mode, in my opinion. Chris Rosser did a video 2 months ago, and I'll link it in the description. He also came to the conclusion that a 500 hertz LoRa mode resulted in the most consistent results, looking at the Betaflight logs. There are also people like Captain Bry that recommend a D500 in a noisy RF environment, and I don't want to dismiss that, so I'll just read it here. It says, after years of checking black box logs, running at race events, my general advice is to run a D500 with a race telemetry mode and 50 milliwatt fixed power. And he actually recommends not to use the F1000 mode. I'm going to say, though, the F1000 mode I'm going to start experimenting with because of the Gemini system. It should make it a lot more reliable. I think, above all, the best thing that we can do for our flight controllers is to give them a very consistent update rate without any gaps in it. And that's going to come from a 500 hertz LoRa or a D500 where it sends things twice. And with Gemini, it's going to send things up to 4 times for a D500, giving you a very, very good chance at getting the packet. And then with that, we can reduce the filtering on our RC input. Filtering is equal to lag. Reduce filtering, reduce lag, have a more consistent input. That's the real magic of the dual modes. It's the magic of the Gemini mode. A better chance at getting all of the data received. So since I've got it here, let's scroll down and just take a look at how everything maps onto the semi-official ExpressLRS dual band mode compatibility chart. So you can see I've got the Betafpv SuperG TX kind of mapping onto this column here. It's based on the SX128X, and you can see it's got these typical modes that you're probably used to seeing: F1000, F500, and then the LoRa modes. And then we get this new chip, the LR1121, that's got all these other modes, and you got to figure out how it all maps together. And I'm told this is the future. That's great. I've got mostly these, though. This is what comes in my Radiomaster radios, at least my older ones. This is what I'm used to. This is what I have, and this is what the Halo RX is going to bind to directly. The Halo RX is also going to bind directly to any of the LoRa modes in the new LR1121, so you can keep that in mind too. And that's why I recommend just running the 500 hertz LoRa 2.4 gigahertz option on your Radiomaster Nomad connected to the HDZero Halo RX. So I hope that wasn't too confusing. I tried to make it a little bit digestible. Definitely went down the rabbit hole tonight just trying to figure this out. But again, general recommendation, put it in 500 hertz LoRa mode, and that's going to work on everything that you have pretty much and give you a very reliable, consistent update rate. That's personally what I'm using. Enjoy. Let me know what you think too. What settings do you use? Leave it in the comments.